Heavenly Father, we thank you that you give us an endless string of moments that can be so much more than we ever thought they could be. We never know for sure exactly what you're going to do next, and we're never really sure what's going to happen next, but yet in the midst of it all, we are reminded that you are good and you love us, and that makes all the difference. And God, once again we come to a time of study, and we will be studying your word all over this building this morning. And I pray for the groups that are meeting. I pray for the songs that are being sung in our kids area right now. I pray for the folks that are in the buzz room. I pray for the group that is studying Psalm 23. And I pray for us that in the midst of all that we do today, that you would be glorified and that we would catch a glimpse of you that will help us to see you better than we did when we came in. If that can happen, then it will be a very good day. So God, we give you this time, and we ask that you would just bless it in Jesus' name. Amen. This is a class that's driven really by your questions, as we did it last week, and we can do that again. Also, I have some that I have brought that have been asked, and so I can fill in the silence with noise if we need to. I will go ahead and do that to start with. And use one of the questions that have been sent to me, and then we'll see if that primes the pump for anything that you've got. But again, you can ask whatever you want. It was kind of free-flowing last week. We'll do the same this week. We don't get to do this very often, so like this, and so that's what we'll do. The question comes in, and it's always similar, and so I've kind of summarized it. But what is the difference between mercy and grace? That's a decent question, because again, we use those terms a lot. They're church terms, right? We use them a lot, and so how do we best understand it? Well, mercy, if you're trying to understand it, mercy is an act of withholding deserved punishment. In other words, if you deserve to be punished for something and you don't get it, someone gives you mercy, okay? Grace is an act of giving or endowing or blessing someone with something that they haven't earned. So while they're very, very close, they are different. So if you deserve to be punished, and I say, well, no, you won't be punished. I've given you mercy. But then on top of that, if I say, and let me give you $100, that's grace. Okay. So I mean, and there is a huge difference in the two. God doesn't send us to hell. That's mercy. Okay. God sends us to heaven. That's grace. And so both of those are very important to us as followers. Both of those terms are huge, and we're supposed to try to model that for people, but while similar, they get confusing sometimes. And so that's the difference, okay? Mercy is the compassion or the forgiveness towards someone to whom it is within your power to harm them. In other words, the person giving mercy to you has authority in some way over you. Okay, God obviously has authority over us, and so the fact that He gives us mercy is a good thing. I mean, so but there's a fine line, but the words really do have different meanings. And so when we ask God for His mercy, or thank Him for His mercy and thank Him for His grace, He has abundantly given us both of those things, and we need them both, by the way. But they are different. Okay, so that's the difference between mercy and grace. All right. Now, what do you want? What questions do you have? Yes. I see the hand in the back of the room again.
He hasn't worked all week at Inspire. He's been writing questions.
Writing questions all week, yeah, okay. Are you gonna ask me why God's gonna let Satan out one more time again? Is that what you're gonna do? Okay. All right.
I did mention to you last week about this one. And you've done lots of funerals.
Yes. Yes. Next question.
So when you have a situation where you want to be gentle, you want to be supportive, but you also want to be biblical, how do you handle a situation where you believe they're not in heaven?
Well, yeah, those are tough funerals to do. The great news is that it's not my job to get them into heaven.
Right.
Okay, and I mean, that's very freeing for me as a woman who leads a funeral. I can't preach them into heaven. So so that responsibility I don't have, which is really good. It's difficult because what you're doing then in that moment is you want to make sure that you give people the roadmap to heaven without giving them the false assurance that the person that has gone before them is there. And so I just don't. I keep it very focused on what it takes to be in eternity with God. And if we make that decision, then we get to be there for a family reunion. And so I just don't give the person that we're burying the benefit of the doubt, But it's up to God. I mean, because we never know. I mean, and that's why I always tell families, you also never know what's happening in those last moments of life and death. Because again, people, God will speak to us in any way we need to hear it. I mean, God speaks any language that He needs to speak so we can understand it. So God can, on a deathbed, in the moments before an accident, I mean, God can intervene in a miraculous way, and you can have a conversation with God and make it a choice for God. And that's really up to God, because God's the one that has set the guardrails on this thing. I don't have to get involved in that. And so I'm always trusting that God did what He needed to do, and the person made the choice He needed to make. And I know for certain, because of who I know God to be, that they had every opportunity. And so if they didn't, then that was the choice, and they made a choice that means that they've gone to hell. But I don't have to say that. I've never said that in a funeral. They're not with us, they're in hell. I don't say that in a funeral. That's bad form, by the way. Very bad form. Doesn't comfort the family at all. It doesn't comfort any, so, but it's hard. I always ask families too, if there's a, when you're kind of working them through a funeral, I mean, do you want us today to remember or bury the person that was, or do you want us to bury the person you wanted them to be? Big difference. Because I've been to some funerals where basically you think, man, they're burying a saint, and this person's not a saint. I mean, you got to be, they're not a saint, anything but. And so I always like it when the family says, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's just tell their story. Let's be honest. And so, and that also leads to lighter moments in funerals sometimes, where you can say, sometimes, this person could be hard to get along with, and everyone kind of laughs because they know, or sometimes they could be stubborn. Yep. And people will laugh and chuckle, or, sometimes they were forgetful or whatever. I mean, you don't bury the perfect person. You just bury the person honestly. I've had very few funerals, though, where someone said, this person was a rat and they stunk. And I want you to tell people that, and I want you to make sure they know God. So I've done a funeral where basically they put a display out of the person's life, and they put a recliner in front of the casket. And they basically said for me to say, this is where so-and-so spent most of their life, sitting in that recliner. They wouldn't get out of it to do anything. They wanted me to just be dirt honest and just say, and that they were abusive, and they made a lot of mistakes, but you don't have to make those mistakes, and you can know Jesus. And they wanted me to make it very evangelistic. Most evangelistic one I've ever done. I'm thinking, man, it made me uncomfortable. And that's a hard thing to do, to make me uncomfortable, But they were basically just saying, tell people that they were lost, and that they wasted their life, they squandered their life, and we're disappointed that they're gone. We're going to miss them, but it could have been so much better. And so I did. I mean, I did it. I try to accommodate the family best I can, because again, anytime you do a funeral, it's really not for the person that's gone. Right? It's for the people that are left, or people that are going to come. So when you do a memorial service, who's your audience? Well, not the person in the casket, or not the person that you're burying. They're not here. So you're always trying to do, at least I am trying to do for the family what they want done, and what they want said. And I care. I mean, I get nervous in a funeral when it turns into open mic night. And that's a big thing in funerals right now. A lot of pastors think it's really cool and hip, which is a 60s word. But that we have open mics at the front. If you want to share anything, just share. And that's tough, man. Because then I'm tweaked, because again, my job, at least at a funeral, I believe my job is to make sure that we point the people in the room toward God. And I always think that that's where I need to be. So I tend to take notes when people are up there talking. Sometimes they're mental, sometimes I have to jot them down, because sometimes you got to fix what they say. Which is that, and that's when funerals get tricky, because that's harder on the spot and on the fly to do than preparing for one for someone that doesn't know Jesus. Because if someone gets up, like we talked about last week, and says, "Well, now, but they're an angel now in heaven." Well, I don't usually let that slip. I don't let that slide. And so I'll have to get up and very gently kind of reroute that and kind of correct that if we can, and as I'm wrapping up and that kind of stuff. And so that's where it gets tricky. I'm not a big fan of open mic nights. Although they're interesting. I went to a funeral a few weeks ago on a Saturday and sat with my mom, and they had an open mic, and so I felt led to share something at the open mic, because I wasn't doing the funeral. And I knew the guy was getting up in front of me, and he was like, "You go ahead and go first." I said, "No, you go first, because I'm going to clean up your mess." And so he spoke first, and I spoke after him. But yeah, it's tough though. It's a good question. I mean, you can make it easier for people. Just a point of reference, if you would take some time when you're healthy and of sound mind, and write out what you want done at your funeral, that will help your family tremendously. It will help your pastor tremendously. Just because it's a tough time. It's a hard time to navigate. No one plans on when they're going to pass away, and so if you have some very strong feelings about that, write them down. If you don't care, then it's a Wild Wild West. Let them do what they want to do. I mean, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that either. But if you really do have some strong, desires of what you want done or how you want things to be, then the time to do that is when you're healthy enough to do that. Advanced planning is not a bad deal if you can get into it, because they get pricey and expensive. Funerals are a good business to be in. I mean, because someone's always dying.
The situation I was in was my uncle in my ex-family had committed suicide, and they knew I was a churchgoer. They knew that I believed, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do I say? Not that I was doing the funeral. Just,
Okay. I was going to say, did you do the funeral?
No. No. But they're my family. I had to do my part to try and
say something.
comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough.
It is. No, it's very hard. I mean, it's hard, and the great news is God knows and God understands. Usually the question will come up is suicide. Is suicide? If someone commits suicide, do they go to heaven? And the answer is, if they knew Jesus, they did. I mean, people act like suicide is an unpardonable sin. It's not. There's only one unpardonable sin, and that's rejecting or grieving the Holy Spirit. So, if that ever comes up in some of your conversations, because suicide is a frequently occurring event. I mean, a Christian can commit suicide. Because again, no one who commits suicide is in their right mind. Okay, no one ends their life in a sane, sound mind, and so but to think that suicide would be a choice that would prevent you from going to heaven means that, okay, there's now something you can do that can outpower the power of God. And that's not true. And so when, if you ever run across that or have to deal with that, and I have, that can be reassuring as well. It really does come down to, what did you do with Jesus? So it always comes down to that, doesn't it? What did you do with Jesus when you had the chance? What did you choose about Jesus? Well, Jim can bring up the room with questions about death.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Nothing like that, nothing like those death questions coming in, Thanks, Jim.
I'll have another one next week.
Okay, yeah. Just keep the hits coming, will you? Well, we talked about death this week. Talked about funerals. What else?
Yeah, well, I don't want one, so I'm telling all of y'all here, if Tommy, they're saying they're not gonna obey, so don't come.
Oh, you don't want a funeral? You don't want a funeral?
No,
Okay.
I do
What do
not.
you want done?
I want a party.
Party, okay.
I want everybody to just celebrate, have Sonny's cater it, have barbecue, have all kinds of, I didn't know. That's not what, to me, maybe, yeah, maybe it's a healing process for the family, but I don't think that.
Well, when
I
somebody
don't
says you're in a
think that.
better place, that's actually true.
Yes.
But, you know.
So I'm just warning you guys, do not come, because he refuses, so. I'm gonna put Patty and Jeff in charge.
Okay, all right, so,
Party.
Yeah, thank you.
so we'll have a
I don't like
party.
funerals. I'll have funeral party.
I do not want any way, shape, or form of a funeral.
Okay.
They're putting me in the oven, scattering my ashes down at Grand Avenue on Paramore, and I'm not.
I'm going out in the bubba tub in the ocean. I'm
Are
excited.
you? I'm serious, I do not want that. I just, I've just been to, look at her color, she looks so good like she did in real life.
No, that's always a lie. That's never true. That's never true. I've never, as many funerals I've done, I've always looked in and went, no, they look dead. They do look dead.
I want that to be everybody's last memory. I want
Yeah.
you to think of my uncontrollable mouth at church.
Oh, we will.
Moving on to another question. Do you have any suggestions to beef up your quiet time? I feel like it's becoming mundane. And of course, Tommy says, no, because I feel like God's saying, oh, here she comes again with her same list and her, and it's like he says, no, he's saying, oh, I'm so glad she came again. But I just feel like it's stagnant. So what are some things you could do to add to your Bible study other than your devotion that you read and writing my blessings and my prayer list? What else could you do?
That's a great question because people struggle with that. I'm a big advocate of mix it up. I mean, don't do the same thing every day, or break it up into pieces. But I mean, you can bring in other material besides just the Bible and besides just your journal. I mean, so if you've got a good Christian book that you're reading that's kind of sparking thoughts, that's not a bad thing to incorporate into your quiet time. I know. I mean, as funny as it is, you always, if you ever wonder what goes on behind closed doors, it was funny that when I was at First Baptist Longwood, Jim Hammock would get the staff together every day, and we went through Charles Swindoll's devotion book. So Jim just basically would just take us through the devotion that Swindoll wrote for the day, and that's what we kind of talked about for a minute. We prayed and we went on. Again, just for variety. You can add music to the mix. You can. Yeah, I mean, you can. You can read different versions of the same of Scripture. Okay, get a different translation. Get a study Bible that has the discussions, questions in the margins. In my office right now, I've got the Lucado Study Bible, I've got the Swindoll Study Bible, I've got the MacArthur Study Bible, and all of them come at Scripture from a different way. And so they, there's always those study notes that help, kind of spark devotional thoughts and things like that. Yeah, I mean, and also don't, and vary what you're reading in Scripture as well, though. I mean, I don't know if you're doing book studies, and I don't know if you're going like from beginning to end or just a random kind of thing, but mix and match it. So in other words, I'm going to go through the book of Matthew. I'm going to do the whole book. So I'm going to take a chunk every day, but then I'm going to spend the next time I'm going to go to Psalms or Proverbs or, make it different. Don't just roll through the Gospels one after the other. Take some time and do that. And then stay out of the high weeds where if there's something that you really need answers to and you don't understand, that doesn't always help you devotionally. That helps you knowledge-wise, but that helps you devotionally. So Leviticus, sometimes, Leviticus can be overwhelming. But also get it. But also don't be afraid to get a good commentary. that you can keep there too, because if something comes up you don't understand, or you're looking for some meaning on it, you can flip through and see if the commentator said anything about it. You can get somebody that's, easy to understand and read. I mean, all those things. So it's not just you and the Bible and a journal. I mean, it can be a whole lot of other things in the midst of it, and go from there. And people do some creative things. I mean, we had somebody that emailed me not too long ago, and they said when we do the Revelation studies, the little video clips, that they always take that and use that as a starting point, and they read the passage in Revelation, and then they come back and take notes behind it, and they just come up with all sorts of questions. And sometimes they send them to me, sometimes they don't, and that's okay too. I mean, that's so. I mean, you can do anything like that would beef it up, and then change the time too. Do it in the morning, do it at night. Do it.
I don't know if I can do that.
Okay.
As if I'm- No, I'm being
No, it's
ridiculous.
But sometimes a change of routine.
I feel like if I don't start the day with it, then.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, if you're giving me permission that I could do it at night, then.
By all means. Well, pray to start your day, and then
Yeah.
find another time to do the study piece of it, or the devotion, the deep dive piece of it. You can do it that way too.
And it might be better at night because nobody leaves me alone in the morning.
Well, when I way back when, years ago, I mean, someone said, put it to me this way, and it made sense when they said it, but then since then I've unraveled it. They said, why, if you're going to study God's word and you're going to have a quiet time, why would you do it at night? Or why would you put on the full armor of God so you can clank in the bed? At night. Yeah. And again, I mean, that made sense to me as a kid. But the older I've gotten, the more I realize, but also there's times when I'm more mentally engaged, and there's times that are better to do it. And morning's good. I'm a morning guy, so morning is good. But still, it doesn't mean you can't do it later in the day. It doesn't mean you grab some time during lunch. I mean, I know some people take their lunch hours at work. They'll go out and sit in their car, and they'll sit there and waste their gas, $5 a gallon.
Yeah.
And listen to something on the radio, and play Z88 or whatever they listen to, and we'll pray and study and read and stuff like that.
So if you don't do it in the morning and all hell breaks loose, you know that.
If you start passing the morning and you,
Oh, goodness.
well, why is my day so bad? I forgot to have a quiet time this morning.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Those are good suggestions. Thank you.
Right. But again, there's no set thing, no set way to do it. Find something that works for you. Okay, and it doesn't have to be long. One of the greatest gifts that I got as a teenager was when Ken Smith gave us the 959 plan, and it was a book that was written by that guy that used to be down, Peter Lord, used to be down in Melbourne. I think it was Melbourne, and it was just a way to have a quiet time. And you could do it in 9 minutes and 59 seconds. That was the gimmick of it. So under 10 minutes, you can do a quiet time. But it was just the basic foundation of how do you read a passage, what do you pray about, how do you take a note or two, how do you ask God a question in the midst of it, and do that. And then it expands from there. And then, as always, because Peter Lord was an author, he released the 1959 plan, and then the 2959 plan. I mean, it's because you can sell books, why not? But it can be as long or as short as you want, too. There's no set roadmap. I don't expect to come to your house and see like a Revelation chart on your wall or anything like that. I don't think.
No, Revelations will not be there.
Okay. Doesn't really need to be there. Yeah. What else? Remind me, no funeral for Amy.
I think you'll remember.
And it's on tape, so.
I had Bill cremated, and we had a celebration of life. His ashes wasn't there, because he wasn't there. And we had a celebration of life, and we didn't have open mic because that was on for hours. People wanted to just pay their respect and go. And so it was, my brother-in-law did the service, and my sister-in-law spoke. She's a minister too. And it was just, it's a celebration of life, and it's really nice to do it.
Sure. No, I'm. Yeah, I mean, there some celebrations of life, funerals, memorial service, whatever. Some are very easy to do, and some are, I don't want to say fun. They're never fun. that's the wrong word, but some are good times. You know, you walk away and you go, gosh, it was good. It was a good gathering. You know, those are the ones that are easy, and those are the ones you always enjoy. You know, and then there's some that you walk out and you go, whoo, that was painful, and that was tough. And then, you know, and that can happen for a variety of reasons. It can happen because of how the person passed away. It could happen because of family angst. It can be because the person that led the funeral was a moron. You know, and I don't cut any slack to guys that lead funerals. I mean, I think that's one of the most sacred responsibilities we have. I think to be asked to officiate a funeral is a big deal, because that is that moment that you're going to step in with the family in the midst of a grief and crisis. That's holy ground, and I think they deserve your best. And there are just some guys I know that just phone it in, and there's just no excuse for that. And they do a horrible job at it. I've left funerals just going, you've got to be kidding me. What? Who let that moron up there with a microphone? Not that I'm better. I mean, I'm sure people walk out there who are thinking the same thing about me, and I got that. But sure, I'm not trying to be bad. It just, I just think that that's such an important job. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of important jobs, but that's one of them. Yeah.
Me.
You're up.
When my father passed away, we had to scramble and find a cemetery and a funeral home and all this stuff. My mother decided she was going to do more or less a layaway plan for her, where she paid like $100 a month.
Oh yeah.
So with that, I thought, well, I should do that. And I did, and I've paid for my niche and cremated. And I've already got my name and date and everything already there.
Got the date.
Not the
Only the first date.
She made reservations, is what she's telling you. She made reservations.
And so what I've done is I want whoever's left in my family not to have to be stressed. And my friends tell me I'm morbid. Because
it's
I
not.
always talk about, I've got my little niche. I can wave to mom and dad when I'm car, because they're catty corner from me. And my brother-in-law's that way, so it's like a triangle. Hi, see ya.
Do you have a lawn chair you go out there and sit?
Bill's in a bench, so we sit on his bench.
There you go. All right.
So I just take the burden off of everybody.
Well, you know what? Yes. I mean, I'm a strong advocate if you can do that. If you can afford to do that and you're in a position to do that, it really does help the family a lot. Because anybody who's ever had to scramble, I mean, the worst scrambling you ever had to do at a funeral, you know, if someone dies unexpectedly, or you find out that I thought it was prepared but it wasn't prepared, or I thought it was ready but it's not ready, you know, that is.
What they want to do.
Yeah, that's just jarring. I mean, it is, because you're already emotional anyway, because you lost someone you love. You're already grieving, and then you're trying to make sane, sound decisions in the midst of, you know, what is one of the hardest times of your life. And so if you can map it out for them, I mean, that's great. And then if your family doesn't love you enough to do what you want to do, Amy,
You just don't love me enough to do what
that's right, yeah, use that line.
Well, I just want, be in the hospital and pass away, go to cemetery, to the cremation, go to cemetery, done deal, and I'm going to be up there.
Sure.
Looking down at everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you're
better.
it's best day you've ever had when you're not here, right? I mean, it's a good thing. Yeah. I mean, funerals are tough. I mean, I want to be floated out in the middle of the lake, and I want you to shoot flaming arrows at me. and that's one way I want to go. You know, I want to. Of course, Patty's not going to do any of this for me. I want a headstone.
We'll shoot it.
No, you don't want a headstone, you want a monument.
I want a monument. Yeah, I want a monument, and I'm gonna have my statue on the monument, and
But he wants it to do something every day at
I
a
do.
certain time.
It's solar powered. I want it to be a solar powered fireworks display on the headstone.
Like
every
Disney.
night at 9 o'clock.
Like
I want it to charge all day, and then I want a fireworks display
Why
every
don't
night
you
at 9
just make it a
o'clock.
roadside America thing? and
That's
you
what I
don't have
want. I want to
in
be.
the
I want to
cemetery?
be a roadside America attraction in the afterlife. I want to be that place
You
where
can cremate him and have him made into a diamond.
I don't want
You don't
him.
want the diamond?
I don't want to wear him.
Appreciate that, but I'm such a precious jewel already. It doesn't matter. So that's really what I'm wanting. I'm wanting that monument, that P.T. Barnum kind of monument with the fireworks at night, and so I'll be written up in the Roadside America. So people go. I think I go check out that
And you
monument.
wonder why I'm not going to do all this stuff. You better have it done before he leaves.
So apparently I'm going to have to make those arrangements myself.
You are. I'm not going to create a monument.
Where do you want it put?
I don't know.
Because that would be your major obstacle.
Probably out by Disney somewhere so he can.
Oh, that's too, well, that would
Nobody
be a
likes Disney
good
traffic,
public
though.
display.
Yeah, the traffic would be bad. Yeah,
I
I
don't
would think
know.
you'd want to be in a rocket.
He can decide that on.
I don't like heights.
Big little rocket.
You could add it to the backyard with the chicken coop.
I could. I really could. Yes, I
I don't
could.
want that thing going off. If I'm still here, I don't want it going off.
Every night at 9, Jeff comes back to visit. There he is in the backyard. Fireworks are going off.
Oh, my goodness.
All right.
Thanks.
What else y'all got?
So I have a question on Revelation, believe it or not. You know, BJ is very into Revelations.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and he's been listening a lot to Kenneth Cox, and he, strangely enough, wanted me to ask you today at some point if you know who Satan is going to be, because Kenneth Cox says that it's going to be the Pope, and that he's got background to prove that it's going to be the Pope, and it's very historical. Kenneth Cox is, I have not watched it, but he has. So one, is that true? But two, is there a need to actually study the book of Revelation? Because my dad and I debate because, in my opinion, because we don't, similar to the Jewish and the Israelites in the Old Testament, although they heard he was coming, they didn't have a fully concept of what Jesus was coming, otherwise they would have recognized him when he came. Similar, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, and so in my opinion, just having different philosophies, and he listens to TV a lot, saying what's going to happen and how they can narrow it down to this is what's going to happen, I'm like, okay, well, that's the problem with Revelation. They're interpreting it based on what they think is going to happen. In my opinion, the only thing I really need to know is that he's coming again, and I know where I'm going. I don't really care what this person says or this person says, because they may be wrong, because we don't know.
Sure.
But he's hell-bent on thinking that Kenneth Cox is right. And I'm like, okay, so is he?
No. So he said the Pope is the Antichrist? Is that what he said?
Yeah, or am I wrong for my philosophy of looking at it? I'm like,
well, of course you're wrong, Barbara. No, no,
I mean,
no.
you know, because he's like, well, God wants us to have an understanding. I'm like, well, I can read it, but I don't understand what that means because we haven't experienced it yet. The reason why the other books make sense because people literally lived it and they're writing what actually happened. But in Revelation, because when John wrote it, it was a vision that it's kind of hard to even comprehend. And even though, yes, he may be taking historical things like, you know, Babylon is the United States, is what he keeps saying. You know, it's like, how do we know it's not Russia? I mean, what? Like, where does it say it's the, you know? So we debate quite a bit on, we've agreed to disagree. But anyway, so.
I don't think the Pope is the
And I
Antichrist.
think you have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
I don't think the Pope is the Antichrist. And because the Pope doesn't check any of the boxes for the Antichrist. Okay. You know, the Antichrist is going to emerge as a leader that will unite the world and will be popular and will have the support of everyone and will be well respected, well liked by all parties. I mean, and the Pope already doesn't check any of those boxes. I mean, you know, historically, this may be the worst Pope we've ever had. that's ever been. Even in the Catholic Church, they have to revere him, but they don't revere him. He's politically, untouchable for some people. I mean, so by definition, this Pope is not the guy.
All right, or another pope, or.
Well, really, realistically, another pope, coming out of a Christian faith to become the Antichrist, probably not. So that's Kenneth's teaching is not real good there. Realistically, in our lifetime, if you think about it, we have actually seen, for the first time, I think historically, what the Antichrist could look like. This happened now in the past year. Because if you think about it, there's been a leader that emerged on a world stage out of nowhere. He has inspired, he has caused people from both sides of a political aisle to cheer. He has garnered worldwide support and fame. And it's Zelensky over in Ukraine. And everyone thinks he's a great guy. Now, to be honest with you, if you do a deep dive in Ukraine, everything going on in Ukraine is not real great. That's, politics aside, some of the decisions they're making over there internally are pretty brutal, right? But on a world stage, all of a sudden this guy has emerged as a leader. He is just that guy. Well, in our lifetime, we've never seen anybody captivate the world stage like that. Now, I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he's the Antichrist. Don't misread that. But that's what it's going to be like. It's going to be somebody that really kind of comes up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden steps into that world, because who knew what a Zelensky was? He was a comedian in Ukraine before he became president, right? The only thing his claim to fame was that ill-fated phone call that he had with President Trump. And all of a sudden, now he's like the guy. And he gets an audience with everybody, and everyone respects him, and the people from all over the world go to see him. That's the kind of guy that you're looking for. Okay, so I can guarantee you it's not going to be a religious figure at all that comes out and does that. And then I think as far as studying Revelation, I think there's a blessing when you study it, and there's a blessing to understand it, but it doesn't need to be all-consuming, because there's a lot of other things to do, right? Because you're right, we don't know how it's going to end. We have what we need to know, and God gives us a roadmap of what we need to know, so we're not afraid, and so we can be assured that He's in charge. And He gives us a great glimpse of what's going on at the end, so that we can be secure in the fact that He's going to wrap it all up and get it done. But we don't have to know the details of it, and it doesn't have to be the center of everything that we do, because there's a whole lot before Revelation that we need to be living out every day, and if we don't, it's kind of bad. You remember when the Left Behind series came out, right? Everyone was so fascinated on the Second Coming that I would have people track to my office all the time saying, well, why aren't you teaching about Revelation? This is the most important thing out there. Well, why don't you live your life like you believed Revelation was coming? Why don't you live your life like you think Jesus is coming back, and quit worrying about what I'm teaching, that kind of thing, because we get captivated by it. And your dad's kind of probably a place in life right now where he's watching.
He wants it to come now.
Yeah, he's watching. He's getting near the end. He's watching Christian TV, which Revelation fuels Christian television, End Times fuels Christian broadcasting, and it's a steady bombardment of it. But there are very few good Revelation teachers out there. They're hard to find. And as much as we taught about it, the more we teach on it, I realize, boy, I'm just not very good at this. This is tough. This is tough. It's tough to understand. It's tough to navigate. It's hard to explain to people. We want to know. I don't blame him for wanting to know. I want to know, but yeah, you can agree to disagree. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think studying it gives you the knowledge of what, if false prophets start getting,
Yeah.
you've got the weapon because you've got the knowledge of it.
Well, and the other book,
You don't have to understand it, but you know what's in the Bible.
and the only book, and it's the only book in the Bible that promises a blessing if you study it. And that makes it unique, right? Of the 66, it's the only one that says you will be blessed if you study it. So, if you want a blessing, study it. No doubt about it. You don't want to ignore it. But I think the blessing comes in knowing that God really does love us, and this is really how He has set things up to do it. And Revelation makes sense. It doesn't have to be as hard as we make it. But I think guys like your dad's listened to and others make it much more complicated than it needs to be when they start trying to guess and put faces to the characters. I think it does a disservice because, that same group of teachers, that same band of teachers has said the end of the world is coming. Remember when what was the Russian leader that had the wicked birthmark on his head? Yeah, everyone said that he's the Antichrist, and he's got the mark of the beast already on his head. Well, it's crazy, right? I mean, it's nuts, that's not it. I mean, and so you're not going to see the Antichrist with a barcode on his head or his wrist. That's not going to happen. That's not the way it's going to be. But
It promises that God gives you a chance up until the very end to make that decision, but that when that cut off, it's cut off.
well, and that was the thing with Jim's question last week. Why does Satan get to be released one more time? And somebody else asked me about this after we were done, because there's a time frame where there's going to be people that will be born into a world where the Holy Spirit is not there. And I mean, there's a moment that God has to do something with them too. I mean, there's a moment of accountability. Are you going to believe or are you not going to believe? I mean, God has to work that out. I don't know how He does it. I mean, I'm not about to, dictate to God what He needs to do. I'm just saying He's going to take care of it. But I think that's one of the things that's going on. That's why Satan's released one more time. It's time to choose who you're going to stand with. And I mean, again, God's going to do it right. I'm not worried about that. But so, tell your dad just watch us.
That's hard, I know.
Yeah, that's tough. That's hard. No, it's hard. And if you don't know, Barbara's dad is how old now? 93. My best source for books. I mean, he brings me books all the time, sends me books. What do you think? He double checks, is this good? Is it not good? And sometimes I had to tell him, no, it's not good. This is not a good book. And, that's a good book. I've read this book, But he's great about, providing information and resources. And I'm sure it's coming from, put your order in before midnight tonight. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Did the Holy Spirit, was it present before Jesus? Before Jesus? Mm-hmm. Or did it come just after Jesus?
No. Holy Spirit was there from the very moments of creation. And so, as crazy as it sounds and as tough to comprehend, I mean, he's been there from the beginning.
Because Jesus told the disciples that when He's gone, the Holy Spirit will let them know, will be their guide.
Yeah. But I mean, but the Spirit has been a part of this Trinity since the very beginning, from creation on. And well, I'm trying to think. I don't think we get to that next week. I'm trying to think. No, I'm not going to cover that next week. If you remind me, we'll come back to that and talk about that a little bit more next week. But I can see by the clock on the wall that we've now gone past our time. Mark's got a countdown for me, so people are going to come crashing in here. Thank you. Bring your questions back next week. Let me pray, and we'll be done. God, I am excited about what's going to happen over the course of the next time of worship together. Be with us. Help us to celebrate who You are and what You've done and how You work in our lives. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank y'all.